I just got to embrace myself for what I am now as I fluctuate, and, kind of having a unique, particular equilibrium state, equilibrium pursuance of, the spiritual technology. It's like a completely ginormous, different grand channel, because the spiritual technology, it's hidden, first of all. Pause. Second, it's a different element of fluctuating mechanisms that come and can join together as a multi-particulate embodiment of a conglomerate of, creational infrastructures and systematic, bodies of different element modes, and them having their own unique different contexts of fixed, cardinal, and mutable. As that's kind of been one of the points that's been, being said within like a main theme. But just because we could say one point, that doesn't mean that, the concept in itself, be it whatever concept, is it's transforming at a different, magnitude and rate, and, based on its own integers. So the secret balance between everything is like understanding what spiritual technology is, the in-between space of how that sets itself apart from everything else, and how, we're misunderstanding like what God is, because that's what God would be. But it's such a shallow word these days, because as soon as you say it, you're confused, you misinterpret it. As soon as you say any deity's name, you're confused because you're misinterpreting it, just based on, the lack of intellectual maturation of how something could be looked at, as a whole, and how things are divided as a whole, because technology mimics spiritual technology, which is like, and there's like millions of different examples of spiritual technology, human beings being one, organic galactic, conglomerates of like, center embassies kind of within their own, however they're, using the hardware at the base, this firmware at the base, the original software at the base. It's not necessarily new, because you have to ask yourself, where are we going in the future, And it's a different type of past. And I said it in 2012, and one of my ex-girlfriends could attest to that, when we were first dating. She could like, you could do a truth thing on her and like see if she remembers if I said that, and if you guys do remember, if she does remember that I said that, like the future is the past and the past is the future, which is an old concept now, because I, like, in 2012 I had said that respectively. But how do I prove that? Because in the end, the jargon, mishmalishing of the word vomit, that needs to stop, because the next the next pivotal logical graceful transition of that is to prove it. So there has to be a proving. This is the proving grounds for like the Divine Mother, because in the end, the external reality is the Divine Mother, and the internal reality is the secret androgen Divine Father Mother. Because like, it could be proven that like, what came first, the mother or the father, or the father or the mother, like which one came first. And that's like, we just, because it's like a debate and we could debate over that doesn't mean it's like gonna be proven, because, but maybe it's just like both at the same time. So like, we could all ask ourselves like, where are we going? But the thing is, like, it's conjoined and it's not conjoined at the same time, because even though we're going on the same place, on this shared participating spiritual platform that's already happening, planet Earth, on an organic level, and maybe on a different higher spiritual material timeline, all of the Earth's activity is being recorded, and there's super surveillance cameras like deep in there. But it's not to be looked at as like, in our favor or against our favor. No, it's supreme, it's super ancient. It's a different. So as we go upon this energetic roller coaster of different types of contexts of up and down, we're dealing with the different, correspondences of use of the technology materially and spiritually, which are two different things. because we're one example of the spiritual technology, the human being interfacing with material technologies, all that which is like less animated from consciousness, but is still like a relevant element, such as steel and, you know, even wood being, you know, still conscious, of course, but like lesser of like a human conjoined conglomerate of different planetary intelligences coming together, because we're underestimating the human. That's been the main commodity. Like money's the illusion, really, because to all the higher alien races and beyond, and spiritual races, you know, the beings themselves were the currency. And to look at money has actually always been the middleman. It's always been an intermediary thing, and it's being hyped up with propaganda, and we're being psychologicalized to think it is the main go-to. By all means, it is within this material surface level realm, but when we're dealing with more internal affairs, then upon those internal affairs, it's going to be asked of us of not money. It's going to be asked of us of our will. It's going to be asked of us of our, like, you know, the different types of like wisdom we have, and the different types of cooperation or individuality talent that we could bring to whatever table is being actually called for within preference and resonance, meaning you have to have it has to be like a go on both sides. Like nothing could really be forced. But the thing is, within this surface level reality, things are forced, you know, and it slides, you know. But it's all about learning. It's all about like correcting yourself in the end, because if all the spiritual teachings are saying like you're this, you're that, you're everything, all this stuff, and it's all about you take responsibility about everything that you've ever did, then why not like go inwardly in different approaches, but we do go inwardly. We just approach, because when we go to sleep and we dream, that's going inwardly. And when we dream and sleep, as we go inwardly, based on the phases of waking up and going outwardly, and the approaches and the different challenges and contexts of life that we're actually growing through and dealing with, such as, you know, just kind of experiencing the external material world with its splendors, and how there's a psychological deep agenda and groups, deep cult society group that has crafted an intention and instructions based on that which already was. It's just a surface level thing, you know, because it's not to say like anything's bad. It's the intention that's, you know, under it, you know, and, you know, within intention that is unknown to you, that's like some type of innocence. But eventually everybody's going to grow up, and the spiritual innocence goes into material reality, and then it goes to spiritual like maturity upon dying, because everybody's going to die, obviously, but we're not thinking about that. We're thinking about ourselves. Ironically, look, it's just you by yourself. That anybody could attest to that, you know, because in the end, you were born, you came into this world by yourself, and you're gonna most likely leave by yourself, unless you're like in war, or unless a catastrophe happens. Then I guess people do die together, you know. But when people like die, like the deeper macro spiritual technology is accounting and attesting for, you know, where a soul goes from, like, you know, where it all, because you had to have comfort. If we're going somewhere, that just kind of like it, there's some deductive reasoning in there that we came from somewhere. And as we came from somewhere, like, we're misinterpreting and misunderstanding what God is. We shouldn't even use that word. Use bigger words like that don't mean necessarily like human attributes, human archetypes, even human characteristics, or human natures. It's God, like quote unquote God, you know, just the energy title of being like something of like a Bhagwan or whatever, or, you know, there's so many different splendorous titles, I get it, but like going from the top down, there is like, if we came from somewhere within deductive reasoning, that means we came from some type of intelligence, because you coming from where you came from is some type of intelligence, but we have our own unique spiritual missing link, you know. We have a spiritual missing link within our consciousness, and the deep advanced God is upholding that on his deep balance, and he's letting that happen, because that's what the power of the original God would have and do by its own fluctuative processes. It would let it be, though, you know, because all the wisdom that you will ever hear, past, present, or future, in today's times, whatever, anything that you'll hear on Instagram, you know, Facebook even, there's big data on there. big data on Facebook. All these companies have big data, but in the end, who has the biggest data company at its spiritual base and origin, neutrally speaking, of course. And I say neutrally speaking because obviously that's its own reality as it is, you know, particularly that. And we're coming and waking up to that. But within like, yeah, so it's like, you know, it's like certain data groups. That's all that's being, like, in today's time, if you want to simplify the understanding of today's time, it's different variation factions using spiritual to material technology and their own unique ratio and intention, and they're creating their own data firms, and you're doing that microly on your human spiritual technology level, because the spiritual technology trumps any type of external technology, because it's been proven and it's been observed and analyzed that the material technologies are imitating the spiritual technologies on so many different levels, because that's how it's capturing its data. But that statement, what I just said right now, that's like a big meditation contemplation, meaning that, like, you can't necessarily prove that per se. You could only witness that and feel it into your life. You could only, like, maybe download that as some type of, you know, anomalous type of realization. Like it being an anomaly. So it being an anomaly, like, people don't know that we're doing that on a data level, but there's just different, what do you call that? There's just different configurations of how everybody's doing the goddamn same thing. Hopefully we realize that neutrally. Hopefully we don't have to have any more feelings, because my spirituality is the top spirituality. It's like no one, like, and it could be proven because it could be measured. And if it could be measured, then there's credible results that could be, you know, observed, analyzed, highlighted, you know, properly, balancedly critiqued and assessed and analyzed for a better, balanced, higher spiritual equilibrium purpose of, we know where we're going, we know where we came from, beyond any facet or format of any type of confusion. Because the question was, where are we going? The future in one context is the past, because that has, which already has been, and the past in itself is the future, because emotionally our water body keeps going back to that and focusing on that. So the dream world, 3D, 4D, 5D, just that's like the middle realm between, like, the psychological demon world, 0, 1st, and 2 dimension. The 1st, 2nd, and then the other half of the 0, 1st, and 2nd dimension is the psychological, you know, solution realm. And it could be translated too. There could be translations, of course. More translations. How many languages are there? But all the wisdom has already been mastered by, like, maybe God. Thank you, guys. Him having a unique balance of nothing, like absolutely nothing, because if nothing is nothing, where is nothing? If nothing is nowhere, where is nowhere? In the everythingness of everywhere. But there is some type of everythingness of everywhere, and everywhere of everythingness. I've been writing of, like, there's track records of me having this whole original subconscious idea, proliferation of the influence, the original influence of how I'm connecting it to whatever predated me within its own most credible synthesis results of how it's talking about, you know, all of this stuff. Because it's even in ancient, like, certain Vedic texts, they talk about nothing and something. So that's like already 5,000 years ago. So this is like the basic conversation, you know, like, how does nothing come from something? How does something relate to the new nothingness? See, I just came up with that right now. Like, we're a new something. So how does any something relate to a nothingness, a new nothingness, a nuevo nada cosa? But we see nothing is a type of something, but it's lesser than, in a neutral way. It's lesser than, not in a good way and not in a bad way. And the lesser than in the within the bad energies, they're vying for that. They're on a inverted, distorted 21. They're with their distorted stuff and using the neutral energy. Because why is evil just as powerful as righteousness? because there's a 21 and then there's an inverted 21, and the inverted 21 is everything that which is distorted is getting the backdrop byproduct after effects of just the grand duality of all dualities to create the neutral energy. And the neutral energy, it goes through on top of the material universe, and how the material universe is a mechanism, construct, treadmill of how it's producing all the energy. And if you account all the energy as one, it's neutral energy. So and I'm corresponding that to particular Vedic truths, hopefully in balance and clarity and some type of like real fucking, get to the like distillation, and for us to ground that in all parts of ourselves, 16 Godheads, all the different challenges of life and stuff, all the different times of life, the houses and the contexts of life. We don't know how big this window is for us to actually get spiritually liberated, because that's a slept on, underestimated conversation. Like, how do you get spiritually liberated? Well, you hear people say like it takes some people eons and it takes some people seconds. That's fucking wild, dude. That's so wild. How like some people like, but there's a whole infinite range in between that though, There's a whole infinite range in between that, because for like someone to compare 1 second to eons, it's so drastic. That means we're supremely unique based on what different type of karmas that we're entangled with psychologically, etc. And how is it being untangled? Because this timeline is being untangled. So there's a window of opportunity. There's a dire urgent window where we have this opportunity to have a quote unquote positive constructive cheat code in this matrix game, end quote, to actually get liberated. Mandukya Upanishad is one standard neutral offering because it's already there. So the Mandukya Upanishad, it's there. It's in our DNA because we're everything. So if we're everything, then that Mandukya Upanishad is in us, and that does it justice. God has mastered all these things, all these wisdoms, such as take no shit but still be kind, take no shit but preserve the order. God is the nexus and the source and the original pre-fuel to all fuels, to all this shit. Thank you. Haribol.